And again, welcome to the channel, just enjoy watching and let's start.
He smiled back. Nope, I am just excited to begin. I have nothing to lose after all. Momo-chan, let's do our best. She nodded back and smiled before the screen on top of the starting mark began to sound. 3, 2, 1. Go. Immediately everyone sprinted toward the tunnel. Todoroki ahead of everyone as they reached the tunnel and everyone else began cramming into the small opening. Nar began to feel a cold air feeling the hole they were in and in a second noticed heard yelling from the people in front of him. Ice was forming on the ground. Without hesitate he jumped to the walls and began running with the chakra in his feet. Some of the students gasped as he trailed behind the ice user. Other students began to thaw the ice out and resumed the race, with most of the class 1A ahead of the others. The quirks began manifesting themselves one after the other, trying to use the most of them. Perhaps the one who surprised everyone was Mineta's sticky balls. He began to pull them of his head and throwing them on the ground and stepped on each one, avoiding Todoroki's ice on the floor. Mineta surpassed Naruto as he was having trouble with the ice as he had nothing to hold on to. Haha, take that, Todoroki. I outsmarted you and now feel the wrath of Mineta-sama's special attack. He was cut off from a blow to his back by a mechanical arm. All of them, including Todoroki, stopped at the amount of robots from the entrance exams blocking their ways. What are those things? Questioned Naruto before Momo Iida answered him. Those are the robots we are forced to fight during our entranced exam. Although we were supposed to ignore these because they were a waste of time. The silver-haired teen looked insulted by the robots. If this is all they have, I am truly disappointed. He froze a robot that was mid-step and went between its mechanical legs without a second thought. Two followed him before the robots began falling. I wouldn't do that. I froze them when they were unbalanced so they might fall. True to his word, the ice began to break by the metal weight and fell down on top of two students. The other contestant froze instantly. Are they dead? Asked Ishido. Shortly after, metal banging was heard from the rubble. First it was soft, but then it became louder and louder until a hand punctured through. The red-haired Kirishima in his hardened form popped through the hole. That bastard. That was really dangerous. Had it been someone else they would have died. Soon another metal banging began to sound. Similar to Kirishima, another teen with gray hair popped throat. He had gritty outlining in his eyes with sharpened teeth and in a steel state. That was dangerous. If it had been someone, they would have died. They both turned to look at each other before they began sprinting on top of the fallen robot, complaining that they both had almost the same quirk. As the students stared behind them and blonde blur passed them in speed. Bakugo was using controlled explosions in his hands to propel himself in the air. He was picking up speed, that half bastard. I'll kill him. He quickly reached the top ahead of the other two but was met with Siro, who had used his tape lines to pull himself up, and Tokiyami, who used dark shadow to repel him to the top as well. Down on the floor, the robots began to attack the students as they tried to come up with a plan. All the 1A students defeated the smaller robots with ease due to the fact have already had real combat experience. The others did not, but sounds of cannons sounded through the air as Momo stood next to one. The 0-point robots began falling and left a gap for the students to squeeze through. Naruto looked at his friend with amazement. He panicked because he's never seen a robot, yet here she was blowing them away with ease. He looked at everyone doing her best to impress the camera. He saw Deku picking up a piece of metal, Uraraka destroying robots and Iida breaking them with ease. He nodded and understood. They wanted to be accepted just as he once wanted. He fist pumped his hand and began moving ahead. Stage 1 clear. Todoroki had a tremendous lead, reaching to the second stage. It was a large crater with sporadic towers of rock that were connected with each other by steel binds. Todor asked the situation quickly and approached the closest line before freezing it. He balanced himself and began gliding through the obstacle course. Bakugo in the air began his long trip to the other side as the students began gaining on him. He cursed before speeding up his bursts. The students stood at the edge of the crater not knowing what to do next. They all saw Atsui jump and land on the rope with both hands. This is just an glorified rope climb ribbit. The rest looked on as the toad girl crossed the crater. A small giggle was heard behind the group as they turned to see a pink-haired girl with goggles and a mechanical suit strapped on. Isn't using mechanical equipment illegal? Questioned Uraraka. It is for the hero courses. In order to level things, those from the support class are allowed to use any equipment they bring as long as they made it. Now the whole "Whoa, see my babies in action." 1 inch. A small projectile followed by steel chain was shot from a small hole in her belt. It lodged itself to the nearest tower and she repelled of it, landing both feet on the side of the wall. She then activated a fan that picked her up 1 inch from the wall and blasted to the top of the tower. The students were marveled to what she just did. Assess the situation and use the best of your abilities to cross, someone yelled behind the group. It turned out to be Naruto, who was sprinting at full force before jumping of the ledge. The student shrieked as the blonde teen was beginning to lose momentum in the nearest tower. Naruto-kun. Momo yelled before she saw a familiar sign she's gotten familiar with. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A clone appeared next to Naruto as it grabbed him by the arm and tossed him as high and far as possible before dispelling. Soon Naruto landed of the tower before turning to see the other students before smirking and giving them thumbs up before continuing. He repeated the steps a couple more times before he on the side of the crater. Stage 2 cleared. In first place, we have Todoroki Shoto. Nothing less than remarkable for the son of the number 2 hero Endeavor. The talent must run in the family, if you must say, sound excited present Mike, while Eraserhead looked at him weird. In second place, catching up to Todoroki is Katsuki Bakugo. The fiery student has a lot to do to back up his earlier comments that fired up the other students. And in third place, and it is a shocker, the outsider known as Uzumaki Naruto is behind the number 1 and 2 students in UA. He has a lot to prove if he wants to be accept the school. Go kid go. You're supposed to unbias, you know, stated a bandaged covered Eraserhead. This made the color commentator stop in his tracks to apologize. Anyways, the last and final stage is the Amine field. It is not powerful enough to hurt anyone, but they're strong enough to set you back a couple yards. The more you get through the field, the more there are. Who will be victorious? Todoroki was walking carefully throughout the minefield. He chose not to freeze the ground because it will help those catching up to him. He observed the ground since the M were easily visible. He heard the bombs bursting in mid-air and turned just in time to dodge a punch from Bakugo. I am going to kill you. This is for declaring war on the wrong persons. Bakugo began punching the ice maker, who was dodging both his punching and mines. I am going to be number 1 undisputedly. The blonde continued his assault as they heard running behind him. Naruto was catching up to the first 2. He was dodging the M with ease. Todoroki looked at Naruto's eyes. They were different. They were dark red with a demonic slit for pupils. Ha! These humans are weak. Use my powers to detect them and beat those 2. Kurama roared inside of Naruto, who only smirked, revealing 2 canines. As he are the 2, Bakugo shifted his body as he began giving punches to both of them. Naruto was dodging them and returning some of them, but Bakugo was able to move on. The 3 sprinted as they fought for first place. Suddenly an explosion got their attention. They saw a huge cloud of smoke before something was sent flying in the air. The Bakugo and Naruto both said, Deku. The gray-haired boy was riding the shield Naruto in the beginning. Needless to say, the blonde was amazed. Todoroki took this distraction to grab Naruto's right hand and Bakugo's left before freezing them. What the? Naruto said, looking at his right hand completely frozen. Kurama, take of this. I am already on it. You know, if you were to use my powers, this would thaw out in a beat. They're not ready to see that. Even now that I know someone with chakra could be observing me. Naruto yelled as he continued running. Bakugo heat up his hat and blasted the ice shards away as Deku used another explosion by stomping the shield on the ground, blowing up another mine to surpass the them. Deku, you bastard. Get back here. Sorry Ka-chan, I have to win this no matter what. Izuku yelled back as he made it to the safe zone. Todoroki froze the ground ahead of them to avoid the leftover mine. Naruto, unable to propel himself with the help of his clones, sprinted as fast as he could with his hand frozen. You are amazing, Deku. Stage 3 clear. Back in the booth, Stage 3 has been cleared. Who will come out on top? Such amazing performances by these 4 gentlemen who have given their all in this race. Todoroki's genius methods helped him throughout most of the race, but now that doesn't matter as 3 other students are fighting first place with him. Bakugo's Explos quirk has rocketed him to the front of the race. Let's see if he's able to back up his provoking comments earlier. Perhaps the most amazing thing is how Midoriya projected H to first place using a giant explosion. That takes guts. Even more remarkable is the unknown and perhaps future student of UA is Naruto Uzumaki. He took on every challenge and had an answer for everything. Let's see the final moments. The four teenagers entered the tunnel that doesn't have any cameras inside to make the ending a surprise. Midoriya went first, followed by Todoroki, Bakugo, and last was Naruto. The whole stadium awaited the first person to walk out of there. First place goes to Midoriya. The former quirk-less student sprinted out of the tunnel when suddenly a flash was seen inside. Naruto popped out of nowhere for second. Todoroki wide-eyed came out in third as Bakugo had the same surprised look. Naruto regained composure as he stared back at the other two and with a stern look warned them before he smiled. In second place Uzumaki Naruto. Followed by Todoroki Shoto and Katsuki Bakugo for fourth place. Congratulations to Midoriya who came in first place. The green-haired teen with tears smiled as he looked at All Might who was grinning clapping his hands. Well done young Midoriya. You showed yourself to the world. The crowd erupted as the teenager stood at the center of attention. A hooded person stood in front of a store that had TVs for sale in a glass window. They had the sports festival on as the camera shifted between the top four students' fro obstacle course. The blonde got his attention before turning to the street and walking along. Uzumaki. With a gust of wind he disappeared. Race results. Izuku Midoriya Naruto Uzumaki Shoto Todoroki Katsuki Bakugo Abara Shiozaki Juzu Honanuki Tenya Iida Fumikage Tokiyami Hanta Siro Ajiro Kirishima Tetsu Masharao Ojiro Yusetsu Awase Suyu Atsui Mezu Shoji Rikido Sato Ochako Uraraka Momo Yaoyorozu Minoru Mineta and so on. Bakugo gritted his teeth as he glared at the blonde that just beat him. Todoroki studied him as well as he tried to comprehend what just happened in the tunnel. He was himself that he was in second place and Naruto was in fourth, but as he was about to exit the tunnel, a flash of yellow lights propelled in front of them and exited the tunnel. When they exited the tunnel he saw a glare from the blonde in front of him. As if he was warning both Todoroki and Bakugo to stay quiet before he smiled at them. Uzumaki Naruto, just what are you? Todoroki questioned as he listened to Midnight announce the second contest. Now the top 42 contestants have earned the right to proceed to the post-preliminaries. From here on now go all out because the most prestigious hero companies will be looking. Midnight exclaimed as the roar of the crowd shook the stadium to life. Now then, what could be the next event? Midnight turned to see the screen behind her that began flashing random battles at lightning speed. I already know what it will. Suspense is killing me. What could it be you say? Well, here it is at last. She whipped the stage and the screen blinked. Human cavalry battle. The students wondered and whispered among themselves trying to figure how it would work. A human cavalry battle is something for a team, not for individuals. How will it work? Questioned Atsui. Midnight grinned. You will need to form teams of 2 to 4 of your choosing and form a horseback configuration. The same rules apply as a normal human cavalry battle. You tee away their headbands while you protect yours. But the twist is you each have a point value based on your performance on the race. So if it is anything similar to the entrance exam, everyone will receive a different point, spoke Sato to the others. Don't say what I was going to say before I can, exclaimed Midnight to the students, shutting them all up with a comical face, but yes, that is right. The number of points depends where you placed. For example, 42nd will be 5 points. 41st would receive 10 points and so on going forwards. Now here is the real juicy one. First place is worth millions points. Deku froze at his spot. He felt the evil glare from all his friends and classmates. He was the prime target for the second stage and he had to make a team, which would be difficult to do since it is easier to steal other headbands than to protect it. The glares were different from when he was in middle school. With dumb luck he landed on the T spot for a brief moment, but now he feels the pressure of being number one just like All Might as he looked up at him. Up in the stands where the teachers were located, All Might looked at his favorite pupil with concern. You've reached that understanding of what it's like quite quickly. Those who reach the top merely encounter fresh new hardships, and the kids who have enrolled here will hear it countless of times, plus ultra. Midnight motivated the stew in front of her. The time limit for the second stage is 15 minutes and the top 4 teams advance. The point value of the headband will equal the total from each member of the team. One to wear the headband will be the horse rider. You cannot wear the headband anywhere else but the neck and above. The more headbands you take, the more demanding to keep control. Now listen to this. Even your team loses its headband or the team's crumbles, you are still not out of the game as you can steal one back. Momo deducted alongside Naruto, so that means that with 42 contestants, there should be at least 10 teams on the field at all time. Yeah, and even if your team loses the headband, you can still recover and move on to the next stage, Naruto continued. Midnight got the attention of the students. Quirks are allowed of course, but you aim to purposely harm someone to break up their team, you will be ejected from the game. Sit out the remainder of the time. You have 15 minutes to look for a team starting now. Immediately everyone began looking for a team. Talking and chatting was beginning to fill the stage as they exchanged quirk information. However, it seems that both Su were divided. They chose to look for someone they are familiar with. We should team up Naruto-kun, Momo said instantly since she knew him well and knew he can defend himself properly. Yeah, we both know each other and your quirk is very helpful, he grinned before continuing, however I think we should team up with 2 more at least. It'll be easier, Momo agreed before she heard behind her, Naruto. She turned to see Todoroki looking at the blonde with curiosity and back at Naruto. I'll be right back, Momo-chan. They both walked away from the rest of the students where they would not be overheard. Once they were a good distance, Todoroki spoke, back then in the tunnel, what you do? Naruto knew what he meant. It is something you can't understand yet, no one can. If you had that kind of power, why didn't you use it since the beginning? You could have easily won the race. I have my reasons. Probably the same goes to you. I only sense you were using half of your strength during the race. You could have easily stopped Deku from winning the Argotten first. Both of them stood quietly. I want you in my team. Naruto looked at him with a surprised look. If you want me, you have to get Momo-chan too. Fine. I was going to ask her to join as well. He turned and went to find the last member of the team. Todoroki, the silver-haired teen, paused as Naruto called him. Promise me you won't tell anyone. A moment passed before the other teen answered, it's not me you should worry about. Bakugo tends to have a big mouth. Naruto nodded before jogging back to Momo. He informed her that Todoroki wanted them in his team and went to where he was. They saw him talking Iida, who only nodded. They assumed he was the last member of the team. They were correct when he bowed to them and offered his service to win the second game. Todoroki began to form the setup immediately. Iida, you are going to be the front as your speed is going to help us. Naruto, I want you to be on my left and Yaoyorozu on T right. You two are going to be my defenders. Your clones should keep other teams away and Yaoyorozu's ability to create items will help us defend with objects. I'll be the rider since my ice could protect all of us just in case. The three nodded and were interrupted by Deku, who called Iida for a moment. How can I help you, Midoriya-kun? Iida spoke calmly. Will you be on our team? Asked Deku with high hopes as he stared at his friend in front of him. Behind him were already Hatsume and Ochako. With your speed, Uraraka-chan's zero gravity and Hatsume-san's tech, we would be untouchable. Iida stared at him. I see that as an excellent idea, Midoriya-kun. I expect no less of you, but I already have a team. Deku saw past him and saw Todoroki, Yaoyorozu and Naruto looking at them. If I want to be a great hero like my brother, I have to face my greatest rival, and that is you. Todoroki and Bakugo aren't the only ones you should be worried about. Good luck in the second stage, I'll be aiming for you. Deku was now worried. Who could help me? That is also a good defense and offense at the same time. Out of all the classmates, whose quirk can help me the most? That when a light bulb went on inside his head. I know who. Team points. Team Midoriya, Izuku, Ochako, Hatsume, Tokiyami equals 10 million P. Team Bakugo, Kirishima, Ishido, 0 equals 650 P. Team Todoroki, Naruto, Iida, Momo equals 720 P. Team Shinso, Shota, Aoyama, Ojiro equals 280 P. Team Mineta, Mienta, Atsui, Shoji equals 405 P. Team Tetsutetsu, Shiozaki, Juzo, Awase, 685 P. Team Kendo, Yanagi, Komori, Tokage equals 205 P. Team Hagakure, Jiro, Kaminari, Sato equals 345 P. Team Kodai, Bondo, Koda equals 255 P. Team Rin, Shishida equals 115p Team Monoma. Monoma. Saburaba. Kaibara. Kuwaro equals 285p Team Tsunotori. Tsunotori. Kamakiri. 60p with all teams ready. Midnight smirked and the countdown began. All eyes set on Team Midoriya and his 10 million points and safe sure you'll be going to the finals. The FA were waiting with anticipation as the numbers on the screen began its final three numbers 3, 2, 1, begin. Immediately all team headed for Midoriya and without a moment's hesitation began flying off the ground thanks to Hatsume's jetpack and the whole team being lightened by Ochako's quirk. Jiro threw her earjacks to them only to be blocked by Dark Shadow. They flew above every team to the other corner and landed with ease thanks to the bow Hatsume made. Amazing Hatsume-san. Your babies are amazing. He complimented the girl with excitement as the other girl blushed with a grin. The brunette mumbled to herself, on because I made them lighter. On another part of the stage, Monoma had acquired Team Hakagear's headband and was wiggling it in his finger before placing it on his neck. Team Monoma was one of TW Team's stealing headbands, which was much easier when everyone was distracted trying to steal the 10 million point headbands. One of Ochako's feet got stuck to something on the ground. Midoriya looked and realized it was one of Mineta's balls, but he looked to see where he was. He only saw Shoji at him at full speed by himself. He had a type of dome on his back made of his body before a tongue came whipping at him, giving Deku moments to dodge it and hitting TH team that was sneaking up on Midori. I expected no less from you, Midoriya. The voice of Atsui and Mineta came from Shoji's back. Before being reached, Ochako loosened her foot from the ball and the team dodging the trio barely but only to be targeted by Bakugo, who was propelling himself with his quirk and aiming at Deku. Nowhere to go, shithead, he exclaimed as he blasting the team down but was black by Dark Shadow once again. This surprised Bakugo before being whipped back by Zero's tape and landing on top of his team. Nice catch, Zero. Kirishima exclaimed. He detached himself from the horse. Is that even allowed? Midnight gave the students a thumbs up. Yes it is. The rider just can't plant his feet on the ground. The crowds roared as Bakugo exploited this rule, giving his team a great advantage over others who can't fly. However, the roar died as the points began changing on the screen. Most of Class 1A began turning zeros. Midoriya remained on top of the scoreboard, but Team Monoma jumped to second, followed by Tetsu and Kendo with 2 in 5th place, leaving them out of the finals. On the ground, Monoma had just swiped Bakugo's headband, like taking candy from a baby. Class 1A. Bakugo raged and exploded. What the fuck? You shit for brains, asshole motherfucker, give it back. I'll kill you. You guys from Class 1A are really dense. The minute Midnight called the first event preliminaries, don't you think they were going to weed out the weakest ones in a seek of events? Think about it, the race was a perfect opportunity to observe all the quirks and students from the other classes. All you had to do was make sure you make the Monoma smiled knowingly. Anybody with a brain would not aim for first but a safer spot to not tire yourself out. Monoma, the whole Class 1A have surrounded us, Saburaba alerted him. Well, it is a good plan I came up with, even though you guys don't agree with me. I mean, instead of chasing a temporary spot on top of the summit like dangling carrots of horses who can't see anything else but what is in front of them. With each word Monoma was saying, Bakugo was boiling inside and every word he said was pissing him off more. Come to think of it, you were already famous, weren't you? You're the victim of the sludge monster incident. Why don't you tell me about next time and how you are attic villains once a year? With that, Team Monoma turned around and left. Kirishima, change of plans. First we're going to kill these shitheads and send them to an early grave, then we're going for Deku and the 10 million points. Dude, you have to be calm and think about the situation, warned Kirishima. I am totally calm, roared Bakugo, trembling with anger before his team rushed at the primary target for the moment. Before they reached them, Monoma blasted Bakugo with his own quirk. This is really a nice quirk, before touching the Kirishima's head and blocked Bakugo's counter with the hardened quirk. My quirk. Are they copying us? The reed head spoke. Monoma's team were met by another team, Team Kodai, who threw cement at Bakugo's team that quickly dried and cemented them on the ground. I can dissolve it with my acid. Ashido did as she stated and waited for the cement to erode. Please don't be mad. After all, brought this on yourself when you threw gasoline to the fire, remember? What did you say earlier? Anyways, take a nice rest. Monoma waved with his devilish smile. Bakugo exploded off his horse group and went flying to Monoma. The calm blonde quickly copied the quirk of his friend and made solid air, creating a barrier that Bakugo Ba grabbed a hold to. Confident that the quirk would hold, he turned his back to Bakugo, which pissed him off even more. With a strong right-hand explosion, he broke through the glass and grabbed 2 of the headbands before using his left one and grabbed the remaining headbands, leaving Monoma with 0 points. Zero quickly grabbed him again with his tape and brought him back to the group who had escaped from the cement trap. "Way to go, Bakugo," yelled Kirishima. "Now let's go for the 10 million points." Bakugo yelled and looked for Deku on the other side, being cornered by Team Todoroki. The two teams stared off in a corner of the stage. Todoroki had acquired 2 other headbands and placed on his next before creating an ice barrier that other team can't penetrate, leaving them alone with limited space. To make matters worse, the jetpack broke down, leaving them on the ground now. With less than a minute to go, Midoriya doing everything to keep his 10 million points because the dreams of his teammates were on the line. "Naruto, send clones and distract them so we can the headband away," ordered Todoroki. The ninja did as he was told and summoned 3 clones and sprinted to Team Midoriya, only to be met by Dark Shadow. The being attacked them, dispelling all of them. "As long as they have Dark Shadow, we can't get near them," spoke Momo. "Naruto-kun," Iida spoke, "when Dark Shadow hit you, did you feel it?" "Yeah, it did. It takes physical attacks to dispel my clones," the blonde replied. "Do you think you can grab it and restrain it for a moment?" Iida asked once again as his legs began revving. "Yeah, I should be able to," he smirked as he created more clones. "Todoroki, make sure you grab the headband, for after this I'll be useless to you." "Naruto, send your clones now." "You got it." The 3 more clones ran to the opposing team. One of them created a Rasengan and smashed to the ground, creating a smoke bomb. In the confusion, Naruto was able to and pin Dark Shadow the ground. Midoriya wasn't able to process what happened next. "Take it, Todoroki." Reciprocating burst was all he heard before. In midst of a smoke, Team Todoroki appeared and in slow motion was able to grab a hold to Deku's headband. None of them knew what happened. In incredible speed they moved from point A to point B within nanoseconds. Smoke came out of Iida's engine legs. Midoriya turned arrow and with a look of disbelief saw the 10 million point headband in Todoroki's hand. "I can forcibly rev up my torque to explosive proportions if need to be, but a drawback is that I suffer from engine stall and cannot move for a certain period of time." "Get it back," Midoriya shouted as his team turned to face a point of no return. Naruto summoned clones around the team to protect them and give them time for Iida. 30 seconds left. "Those clones are time-consuming, Midoriya," Tokiyami exclaimed, only to be pushed forwards by Ochako. "We cannot give up, guys," she yelled. Izuku looked at them and knew she was right. They placed their trust with him. He wasn't going to let them down. 20 seconds. Bakugo came flying in as he targeted Deku but realized he didn't have the headband anymore. "Half and half, bastard, and the foxface has it." 10 seconds. "Crap, I am not going to make it in time and those clones aren't helping," thought Izuku. "Ochako, make me lighter." The brunette looked at him but did as she was told. She tagged him and Midoriya leapt forwards. 5 seconds. He turned around and with his pinky used one for all and blasted himself to Team Todoroki. 4. Bakugo was getting closer as well as he stretched his arm. 3. Midoriya saw the headbands and grabbed 2 of them. 2. 1. Time's up. Midoriya hit the ice behind them after the clock ran out. He picked up his arm and the headbands in his grip. 405p and 345p. The crowd erupted and stood in standing ovation in the events that happened in the last moments of the cavalry battle. Giving the well-deserved applause to the students, everyone stared at the screen that displayed the 4 top teams: Team Todoroki, Team Bakugo, Team Midoriya, and Team Shinso. The stadium erupted as the first one-on-one fight began. It was Midoriya against Shinso, a suspicious-looking character that Naruto took note of. Shinso had surprised the whole stadium as he sneaked himself and his team past the cavalry battle without anyone noticing. Above that, 2 of his teammates refused to participate because they recall what had happened in those 15 minutes. Naruto saw Ojiro talking with Midoriya before the match started, but he paid no attention to that as he was focusing on opponent. The girl he was going against had green hair almost like vines and was timid looking. She reminded him of Hinata. Then he remembered what happened that fateful night. He was here in a tournament living a normal life, the people in his world was mourning and suffering the effects of the fourth great ninja war. He cringed. Doing this tournaments is just a small step to getting back. His attention was brought back to the fight. Midoriya was running full speed and then out of nowhere he stopped. Shinso said some words to him and the green-haired teen turned and started walking towards the locker room. Damn it. Even after I warned him about his quirk he still fell for it, Ojiro exclaimed in the background. That boy is using a mind control technique. Naruto, Kurama's voice resonated in his head. Yeah, and I'm guessing that is how he advanced without anyone noticing. Let's see how Deku gets out of this one, replied Naruto. Mere steps before Midoriya walked out of bounds, a small burst happened in his right hand and was about to stop himself. He turned to face the purple-haired teen who was shocked to see anyone break through his mind control. They both started running to each other and it began a slug face with exchanges of blow. The human broke through the mind control by inflicting self-pain. He has guts, reminds me of you Naruto. Yeah, he won't give up. He has something to exclaim to the world. He grinned before he saw Deku using an over-the-shoulder toss to send Shinso out of bounds and end the match. That purple-haired teen could have been troublesome if he advanced to face you Naruto. If you were dumb enough to get caught, I wouldn't have saved why rushing in, the fox taunted. Before Naruto continued, Momo walked up to him grabbing his attention, ready Naruto-kun. The blonde blinked before he flashed her a foxy grin, yeah Datbeo. The brunette smiled at him, good luck. I know you'll win. Naruto stood up and went to the locker room to prep himself for his fight. He had no idea what her quirk was since she didn't show it in the other two contests, so he had something. The only thing he knew was that she had a faint smell of earth. He went to the tunnel and saw the light from the outside. For a mere split second, he recalled his Chunin exam and he got excited and fist-pumped the air, alright. Let's this. As he stepped outside, he saw that his opponent was already waiting for him. He heard the crowd around him but as he stepped into the ring he silenced them all, focusing the green-haired girl in front of him. Uzumaki Naruto vs Shiozaki Ibara. Let the bloodshed and killing begin. Present Mike yelled throughout the stadium before being interrupted by said girl. Excuse me, I don't want to kill anyone, she said timidly as Mike chuckled and apologized for overreacting. Anyways, begin. The blonde chuckled before getting serious. He stared the girl down and remembered what his sensei would do. Remember Naruto, if you don't know anything about your opponent, try using any method to gather intel before heading in. Intel is as much as important as a weapon. You are able to plan and strategize for the best possible method to succeed in your mission. The silver-haired masked ninja smiled. You have an abundance of clones, try them first before barging in hot-headed. It's a tactic that most elite shinobi use before even heading out. Thank you Kakashi-sensei. Naruto quickly performed his trademark jutsu and summoned two clones who began sprinting towards the girl. Ibara immediately sprang into action using her quirk. The ring began to shake before giant roots began emerging from the ground and hitting both clones away. She is able to manipulate nature, he said, nothing I haven't faced before with Madara. Naruto began sprinting and dodging as more vines came towards his direction. He noticed that Ibara hasn't moved at all, just commanding her vines and roots, just like Shikamaru with his shadows. Naruto's face lit up and smiled. He summoned two more clones and shuffled among them before two began running towards her and the other one staying behind. Her vines were tearing the ring up and causing a lot of smoke, blocking most of the views. As both Narutos were with reach of her, she lashed out all the roots she could, kn both of them out, and hearing the puffs of smoke of his clones that they were gone. It grew silent in the stadium as they awaited the aftermath. The dust cleared slowly to reveal one of the clones that was close to her was the actual Naruto. Present Mike's voice roared, incredible, Uzumaki Naruto is down. Midnight was about to call the match before she felt the ground below them move a bit. Ibara confused looked back at the spot where the far Naruto was before she looked down. Out of nowhere, a fist popped from the ground and hitting her straight in the jaw, sending her flying backwards out of bounds. The crowd were stunned. Oi, he was out of bounds, yelled Monoma from the stands. He clearly touched the ground that is not part of the ring. Midnight didn't know what to call because technically the kid in the stands was right. She got closer to the ring before she saw Naruto smile at her and turning to Monoma giving him a thumbs up and puffed into smoke. A clone. Present mic, this kid just fooled us all. The Naruto that was knocked out stood up and dusted himself off before grinning at the female judge. She smiled back at him. The real Naruto Uzumaki did not step out of bounds. Therefore he is the winner. The heroes that were in the stands and watching at home were appalled by this blonde ninja. They stood up and applauded his match and the crowd burst into life once Aga after the confusion left the stadium. All Might clapped slowly and smiled. Young Naruto, you assessed the situation and verified the quirks of your opponent. You planned 2 steps ahead of them and you knew you were coming out victorious. You are already acting and thinking like a hero. Well done Naruto, you are truly amazing. The blonde kid headed towards the girl and extended his hand to help her. She smiled and accepted it. I'm sorry for hitting you. That quirk of yours is truly amazing. Once get stronger you'll probably unstoppable, believe it. Abara blushed before smiling. Thank you Naruto-san. It was a pleasure fighting with you. Momo saw from the stands and glared as the teens in the ring were chatting. Are you okay Yaomomo? The brunette blinked before turning to see Ochako talking to her. Yes, I am fine. Why you ask? Well, it's because you were glaring at Naruto-kun and Abara-san. Are you jealous? Uraraka teased. The other girls blushed madly before denying everything. Shouldn't you be focusing on your match with Bakuku-san? The other brunette rubbed her hand behind her head. Yeah, you're probably right. Momo saw her sit down and talk with Izuku and Iida before turning to see the two on the ground heading towards the tunnel. She sighed. Why did I do that? The next match was Todoroki vs Zero, which ended with the ice user freezing half of the stadium along with the tape user in mere seconds. When he was announced victor, he let the Zero lose before apologizing without any feelings and walking back to the locker room. Followed by that was Iida vs Mei, which resulted in a 20-minute advertisement produced by Mei Harume at the expense of the engine user. She proudly displayed gadgets she had to the businesses present and at home watching the tournament. The match, if you can call it one, finally ended when Mei stepped out of bounds willingly. Was mad at the pink-haired girl, who paid no mind to him as her mission was accomplished. Next was Kirishima vs Tetsu that ended in a draw after both displaying valiantly each other's quirk until they both knocked each other out. Midnight stated that W would be declared by an arm wrestling contest after both students wake up and are healed. Perhaps the match that nobody wanted to see was next, Ochako Uraraka vs Katsuki Bakugo. Most of them knew the result before it even started. With the exception Izuku and Iida who cheered the brunette to the finish, everyone knew the Bakugo would come out victorious. Did Ochako surprised everyone? Yes, she did by displaying intelligence and persistence to see out a plan she stared since the match began. Unfortunately she was going out against one of the top, if not, the top student in the first who was an all-natural talent. Naruto saw the full extent of the other blonde and knew there was no stopping him from becoming number 1. They both stared at each other as he sat once again in the waiting for his next opponent. Naruto then saw Ochako walking like nothing as she sat down once again in her seat smiling. He grinned and approached her extending his respect. The brunette smiled and fist bumped him back. The exchange was seen by everyone including Momo who was preparing for her match against. She glared before turning a blushing, by God, I am jealous. Good luck Momo-chan, she heard behind her. She didn't turn in case her face was red. Thank you Naruto-kun. I'm off then, and she bolted out leaving the blonde confused before he shook it off and saw her approach the ring. This match got his interest because it was to stop students, Yaoyorozu Momo vs Tokiyami Fumikage. In paper they almost cancel each other out, but in an actual fight doesn't matter. He saw his friend prepare as the match began and immediately Fumikage used his dark shadow to prevent her to make anything to attack. Continuous and precise strikes stunned the crowd including Naruto. Momo was confused as to why Fumikage stopped attacking before she realized she was knocked out of bonds in rapid F. Naruto frowned, before going down to the tunnel. He waited for her and saw her broken. He grabbed her arm to stop her but she shook it off and continued to the lock. The blonde looked at his friend slam the door from the locker room. He sighed before heading back to the stands. She needs to cool off Naruto. Just let her be for Tota, this was very important to her. Naruto nodded. She's strong. It was just the wrong opponent to face. The first round ended and all the victors were announced. Midoriya, Todoroki, Naruto, Kirishima after he beat the steel user in the arm wrestling contest, Iida, Bakugo, Fumikage, and Ishido who beat Aoyama easily. The second round matches were announced and it was declared that Midoriya will face Todoroki, Naruto vs Iida, Bakugo vs Kirishima, and Tokiyami vs Ishido. Izuku faced Todoroki in the stage. Both pupils of the number 1 and 2 heroes in the world. One was an all-natural talent and the other was a hard-working hero to be. Stared at both of them with excitement. He knew what Todoroki was capable of but he only saw a brief power from Deku in the cavalry battle. The match began with Todoroki trying to freeze Deku just like Zero but the all-for-one user sacrificed one of his fingers to smash the ice away surprising Todoroki. Ever the confident the ice user continued his assault and tried freezing his opponent again who responded the same way. So Todoroki is just going to keep trying to freeze him and make him use all his fingers, spoke Naruto after all of Deku's fingers were busted. Todoroki went for the win and glided his way with his ice towards the green-haired teen who was not afraid to use another finger after the silver-haired teen circle Midoriya. He froze Deku's leg and tried to knock him out only to be blasted off again when Deku pulsed his thumb against his cheek and used the pressure for another smash sending Todoroki back. Naruto and Bakugo noticed Todoroki slowing down and with frost on his face. They both came to the same conclusion, he is not using his full power. That's when they heard Deku speak. The words that resonated with everyone in the stadium, everyone is using all their power and here you are just using half. I don't care what problems you have with your dad, but you are not him. You are you. Now come at me with all your strength, he yelled causing something to wake up from his opponent. The fire that was inside him raged and immediately melted any frost on his body and warmed it up to his maximum potential. There was a smile on his face. Naruto saw Endeavor react to his son but paid no attention to him. His interest as well as everyone was at a full power Todoroki. His blood raced. They both launched at each other with full strength. Deku focused his one for all in his right hand and Todoroki's full-powered flame in his right. Smintos along with Mid tried to stop both of them to no avail. The sheer power rivaled that of a small explosion sending steam and debris everywhere. Naruto, Deku, you are just like me. You bring out the best out of everyone. I want to fight you. The smoke cleared and displayed the result that could rival an asteroid crater. Against the wall, was Midoriya unconscious and in the ring saved by his own ice was Todoroki knocked out as well. Winner Shoto Toradoki. The crowd erupted at the match that they just witnessed. They were just first-year students but they are displaying amazing sources of strength and willpower. Any hero will lucky to have them as sidekicks. Up next Tenya Iida vs Uzumaki Naruto. Begin. The blonde and the raved-haired teen stared off. In his base form he wasn't going to keep up with him. He can outspeed him. He already knew what to do. He heard his legs revving and summoned 2 clones. Alright boys, keep him off me. Both clones looked at their boss and grinned as they saw him sit down cross-legged and close his eyes. Iida was confused but he knew Naruto was up to something. He heard tell his clones to buy him time so he needs to this quick before Naruto gets what he wants. He bega accelerate and run at him at high speed only to have one of the clones hit the ground in front of him with a blue sphere he called Rasengan. He had to jump back as this unbalanced him, well thought Naruto. But you have to do better than that. The engine in his legs revved louder and in a blink of an eye Iida punched a clone in the stomach turning him into smoke. The other clones was stunned and dodged an at from the raven-haired teen. Those clones are useful Naruto but with a single hit they go away. He told the real Naruto who just kept sitting there meditating. His legs revved once again, and they can't keep up with me Naruto. He aimed a kick at the clone only for him to miss when Naruto jumped over him and grabbed him by the collar to send him flying back. Speed isn't everything Iida. I know a guy who is super fast but his strength is incomparable to yours, spoke the clone as he got ready to attack. The clone formed another clone and performed the Rasengan and smashed it to the ground as Iida got close to the real Naruto. This time however, engine user jumped and kicked the clone next to him and turned him into smoke. True but I know you are not as smart as I am Naruto-kun. That won't work against me twice. The clone gritted his teeth before he rushed Iida to knock him out of bounds only to be thrown out with his own momentum. Game over Naruto-kun, Iida said as he revved his engine to use his special technique so the ninja couldn't react to him. Iida! The clone yelled. The engine user turned to face him as he was preparing his last recipro burst. The clone smirked, Oiroke no jutsu. A huge puff of smoke happened and Iida could see a female outline through it. As the smoke became less and less dense, Iida became turning redder. Yes. A familiar voice could be heard from the stands before being silenced. A beautiful slim and busty blonde appeared in front of the engine user. She had no clothing on except for the smoke covering her most private areas. The girl had Naruto's W marks, 2 pigtail reaching her waist. A youthful appearance. Iida froze and Kamoakli blushed madly. Cat whistles were heard from the stadium with Mineta's voice being muffled by Suyu. "Oh Iida-kun," the clone said seductively before her smile turned into a smirk, "game over." Shed winked and blew him a kiss before disappearing. Remembering where he was, Iida turned to see Naruto still meditating and began his attack, recipro burst, at high speed, and with all the momentum he cocked his fist back and threw a punch as he drew nearer and nearer to the blonde. Mere inches away from Naruto's face, to Iida's surprise, his fist is caught by the blonde himself. In disbelief, Iida stared at the hand in front of him before facing Naruto. His eyes slowly opened to reveal orange markings and golden frog pupils. "This is Sage Mode," Naruto without getting up threw Iida over his head and out of bounds. "Iida Tenya is out of bounds. Winner Uzumaki Naruto," proclaimed Midnight, amazed at the young teen in front of him. Those eyes grew her curiosity before they turned his normal blue and he got up. Amazing. Uzumaki Naruto with unbelievable reflexes defeated Iida Tenya. What can't this kid do? Naruto smiled and turned to his friends in his stands and gave them a thumbs up as the crowd roared around him. Back in the locker room, Naruto was sitting down by himself having a conversation with Kurama. "You sensed it, didn't you?" spoke the nine-tailed fox. "Yeah. When I entered Sage Mode I could barely sense him. His chakra is familiar though. Almost as if I have met him before. Since you could sense him, he could have sensed you to Naruto. At this point you should just draw him out." "I think you are right, Kurama," replied Naruto.